Good morning, everyone. We'll call the Capital Committee meeting on May 5th to order at 10:01.
May 11th.
What did I say?
You said May 5th.
May 11th.
We don't want to relive last week.
May 11th meeting to order. On the agenda today, we're going to review capital projects for the school committee. And I see we have Gordon and Greg in attendance. I'm going to pull them into our meeting. So let them get connected and set up.
I've got some news on the police cruiser issue too, but we can address that after the school issues.
Perfect.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Gordon.
Pam is looking to join as well.
Oh, there she is. Pulling her in right now.
Okay.
And Greg, just so you know, you got yourself muted. There you go.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
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 All right, wait for Pam to get set up here. So when we're going through these projects, I'll pull the sheet up on the screen and we'll just go down the list and then probably have you guys just explain the different projects.
Sure. I can hear Pam talking through the wall. Let me see if I can help her. Just give me for a second.
You know, she's good. I didn't know she could talk through walls though.
They'll work on the walking.
See through them.
And see through them. Wow.
No, I clicked the link. And then Ryan updated you to a panelist. She's going back out and coming in again.
All right. If she wants, I can remote to her computer and take care of it. Or we can have
I'll ask her. Ryan can remote to your computer and.
we can put that on screen. We can do that all together.
Go ahead, Ryan. If you want to remote to her computer, go ahead.
All right.
Although it's good exercise for me to keep getting up and down like that.
She's connecting from her desk.
More exercise than I've had so far. Ryan, I just had a general question maybe before we get started into specifics.
Sure.
Gordon, I received a packet of the capital planning packages, and the one from the schools, the covering memo was dated January 7th, 2019. So I was kind of wondering.
Should have been, that's my typo. Should have been 2020.
Okay. Because the dates after talk about November 29th, 18, the process, December 20th, 18, January 19. So that's what I was wondering. Is this last year's or is?
So the packet, Jim, the packet that I sent actually said December 4th. The cover memo said December 4th, 2019, and then it followed with a prioritized list of projects.
I don't see the December 4th, but I do see that your projects are listed and they are labeled as FY21 projects. So
Is the first one that you see Maple Shade Phase 2 steam piping?
that is correct.
Okay.
So I have the right list then.
You have the right list of projects.
Okay, thank you.
Almost there.
Everybody have a nice weekend?
Very,
yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
How about you?
Very nice. Yeah.
You're all
Yeah.
of you.
Had a family bike ride and felt at times with the wind on Saturday that it's like we were standing still when we were going uphill.
That was tough. Yeah.
It's tough when walkers start to go by you and you're just trying to keep the bike balanced.
Makes a big difference which direction you're heading in, hey?
Absolutely.
All right, we got Pam. Pam, do you have something covering your camera?
I don't have a camera on my desktop, Brian.
I started on your laptop.
Oh, it says launching on my, I can see the screen.
So if you're
Without-
looking on your laptop, you should.
Yeah, it's not working on my laptop, which I've had many Zoom meetings. I'm not exactly sure what's
All right, you can see us though, right?
I can see all of you.
Okay.
I can hear everything.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started going through our projects. Let me pull up my screen here. All right, everybody can see that?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go, let's filter these. All right, so we can just get started. Gordon, if you want to take it away, we'll start right with Maple Shade Steam Pipe Replacement Phase 2. We'll give you a nice easy one to start with.
Okay. And Bruce knows the history of this, which unfortunately is a very detailed history. So this was a project that we had actually put on to be completed in this fiscal year, and money had been appropriated. When it went out to bid, unfortunately, I believe, Bruce, we got 0 bids. I think people, once they did the walkthrough and realized that to get at these pipes and a lot of the work was going to be done in these tunnels that are roughly, what are they, 4 by 6, Bruce?
Yep.
Which meant that there was a lot of work, not only in the tunnel, but on your back. And
Also, I don't mean to cut you off.
no, please.
A lot of people didn't bid on the project because the money that we have allocated for the project is part of our advertisement. And people were calling me up. So we had money like $622,000 allocated for the project. I called up a few vendors that did pick up the bids, and they're saying it was $1.2 million worth of work and things like that. So that's why we didn't receive any bidders. I then needed to reach out to the Attorney General's office, obviously, to move forward with the project, given the existing pipes were actually corroded. Multiple holes were found, so we had many issues. So I had an emergency waiver issued to the town of East Long Meadow in order to complete the initial phase. So we did the portion of the building that needed to be done in order to heat the facility for this upcoming year.
So this would be phase 2. I think the timeline also was aggressive. So a lot of the contractors felt, well, going into those tunnels, trying to get it done between, June 15th, whenever we got out last year, and August 25th, whenever we were returning, was going to be a really challenging timeline.
I just have a question for Bruce, I guess. Bruce, if there wasn't enough money allocated and the contractors didn't go for it, how did you get the work done? Did you just do less of it, just the very highly critical parts, and that's how the money was enough to get those portions done?
That's correct. That's exactly how we needed to proceed. Given the situation of the existing steam pipe, there was no option to defer this project in order to obviously safely heat the building for that upcoming school year.
So the 449 in this budget for the capital plan, the 449 is now sufficient to cover the remainder of phase 1, or for everything?
For everything, the remaining of the building. And just to give some perspective, I guess, of the project. Some of these projects, especially in an old building like this, not knowing what you're getting into, we've actually had to go in and access the exterior of the building in 2 locations in order to do these repairs. And those were unforeseen costs. It's a complicated project. A lot of the pipes are obviously not accessible, so some I guess, on-site ingenuity and thinking outside the box need to be performed in order to get this, the first phase of the project completed.
Just one last question, Ryan, sorry. Bruce, so when you went through and determined which were the most highly critical places that needed to be repaired, the remainder of the pipes, I assume is your determination that a wait could only be a year because the rest is gonna go faulty?
It's,
Or I guess what I'm asking for is,
right.
Does it absolutely have to be done this year if you got the worst parts out of the way last year?
We got the worst part done. We haven't seen its rear its head, I guess you can say, if anything else is gonna fail. We did get through this year, though, with the repairs that we did get completed without any issues and or additional leaks.
What the original event that alerted us to all of this is that one of the leaks was warming up the water that was going to water fountains in the building. And so one of our elementary students reported that the water fountain water was hot when she went to take a drink. And that's when we
Could
started.
I ask a question, Bruce? Did you say that there was some opinion that the total project value was 1.2, and that's
Yes.
why so
That's
How
why a
are
lot
we
of people didn't bid.
right, but how are we getting to 449 now?
That's going to be the remainder of the project. So given our situation back when we were initially doing the project, we came out to 531,892 that we expended on the first phase. And that's all we can afford to do in the critical areas that needed to be done at that time, given the leaks.
So we
So
spent
this is-
100 and something, and the 449 is what's
Right,
left?
so I estimated, I have roughly a balance here, and this is my worksheet. It's not been verified by the town accountant. 101,446.35 for my balance, but that doesn't, I'm not sure if that balance is accurate at this point in time. So what I ended up doing is I minused, I put in there 76,897 to offset the final phase of the project with a total, obviously, project balance for phase 2 at 449,430. So there was
Right.
never enough money in the project to do the entire building. So
So I guess I'm just a little confused. So would phase 3 assume, are there only
Phase
3
two.
phases?
just 2,
There are just 2.
yes.
So I'm still a little bit confused. Was the 1.2 price tag erroneous from your point of view?
Yes, that was, obviously.
Those were contractors, right, Bruce?
Those were contractor
Contractors
numbers,
were
yes, that's
estimated.
nothing that the town had, exactly, Mary. So that's just an arbitrary number that a contractor, when I reached out, why didn't you bid on the project? He goes, you don't have enough money to do the project. So that's that dollar figure.
And we had allotted over 600,000, correct, Bruce?
Yes, 622.
All right, that's clear.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Bruce,
Yes.
I have a question.
Yep.
I guess it's a two-part question. It has to do with you were able to complete phase 1 as we're describing this.
Yes.
And so phase 2, would that be something that could be done this year, or would it carry over till next year?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I would like to say yes, but like I said, unless, like I said, until we do, like I said, if we can do a complete evaluation of the system.
Would you have time? You wouldn't have time to get it out to bid? Well, we'd have to have a budget first to get it out to
Well,
bid.
right. So we wouldn't be able to do it this year's anyway, Tom, just because of obviously well, not the situation we're in, but obviously based on timing So if money isn't available to July 1st anyways, for me to prepare a bid and go out to bid and get it awarded and the work to be completed before heating season we wouldn't be able to do it.
Right. And that's why I was asking, from a conversation that it was actually a webinar that we attended. The state is non-committal with regards to when they're going to have monies available and the budget confirmed.
Sure.
And they're talking no sooner than sometime in August.
Right.
And that's aggressive.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're definitely not going to have any money by July 1st.
Right. Right. So just keep that in mind when we're making these decisions, obviously. We know even if there is money available, we wouldn't be able to go out to bid, obviously, till next spring in order for us to get competitive bids and start the work in late June of next year, even if we did have the money.
And Bruce, if we were thinking, obviously with the situation we're in, and putting it off a full year, that 449 might not be the amount needed at that point, right?
Right. I would obviously add a contingency factor of 3% like we usually do on our projects, or depending on the situation. So just keep that in mind too. So if we defer this till next year, you're talking 3 years down the road before we can do the project.
All right, anyone have any other questions on the steam pipe replacement, or Gordon, Greg, or Pam, anything else that you would like to add? All right, for the committee, I think we'll hold off to the end before we go through and start discussing the grouping and the categories. So we'll move on to the next, Gordon, if you want to talk about replace the trailer classrooms at Mountain View for $1.352 million.
Sure. So these are portable modular trailer classrooms that were put on, I think, in the late 90s, and they're well past their original life expectancy. And thank you to DPW that we've been able to keep them going. So this was a project actually that I believe last year had been moving forward, possibly to be included with the capital projects approved last year. And then we swapped it out because I believe the council wanted to put more money towards road projects, which certainly made sense. And so we voted to pull it off and hold it for a year. And I don't know if Bruce can speak to some of the maintenance that they've put in over the years to keep it going.
Yeah, this is kind of the same timeline as the Meadowbrook modulars were installed as well. And the Mountain Views held up a little bit better because they have actually asphalt underneath them, so they don't have dirt and everything else underneath them that obviously inhibited the moisture and everything else to cause those modulars to deteriorate even quicker. So other than that, obviously rooftop units, we've replaced a couple heat exchangers in the RTUs. We've replaced the windows over there in that modular and added some paint. I think we painted them a couple years to give them a little more life expectancy. But other than that, they are what they are. They're not pretty units. So therefore, obviously, given all that information, that's why they're on the plan for replacement.
So Bruce, this is Jim. I was on the capital planning committee for the town manager last year. And, this, I believe, is one of the items that our committee recommended. I think after we submitted our recommendations, there was that negotiation between deferring this project and putting a huge bond out for road improvements. So obviously you guys had convinced us that it was necessary to be done last year. So if it can wait 1 year, what is it that changes between 1 year to the next that it can't wait another year? And I'm only asking this because I was surprised we could wait that year.
I mean, it really comes down to the work that is needed throughout the year to keep it going, and that falls on DPW. I think what it also comes down to for staff is more about sort of the air exchange, as Bruce was talking about. They've replaced over time some of the air handlers on the top roof. In the other modular at Meadowbrook, we started to see mold. We have not seen that same type of situation occur at Mountain View. So it's really probably more about the climate of the room would probably be the best way to explain it. I think, Bruce, have we had leaks over there as well?
I don't have Joe with me. I believe there has been leaks on the roof section, given the age also, but we patch and obviously repair as needed as they come up.
All right, anybody else have any other questions about the trailer classroom replacement in Mountain View for 1.352 million? Gordon, is that reimbursable through MSBA at all?
That's not an MSBA project. We have not submitted that one through the MSBA. We did the, obviously the roof at Meadowbrook and the windows and doors at Meadowbrook. The modulars at Meadowbrook is capital project being run through the town. And then the only other MSBA project right now that we have in there, we're in the eligibility period or soon to be in the eligibility period for the core project at the high school.
Okay, well, how come the trailer classrooms isn't just for a timing thing or not eligible?
I'm not sure that modulars fall under unless you're putting it maybe through the core program, but that's usually a full building program. The accelerated repair is windows, doors, boilers, and roofs.
Okay. All right. Moving on to school priority number 3, the electrical switchgear replacement at the high school for $119,115.
So this is, and I'm sure Bruce can explain it even better than I can, but this is a continuation to mitigate certain aspects of the high school electrical system, which has certainly been problematic because it's at its capacity level. And what we're trying to avoid is a catastrophic shutdown, which then would most likely force anywhere of a shutdown between, say, a month to 6 weeks, because most of the parts have to be found in secondary markets for the replacement parts. Did I describe that accurately, Bruce?
Yes, you did. So yeah, all our existing switch gear is obviously out of date. You can't find parts for them anymore. So we did a little bit of work at this facility last year with our main transformer inside the building, step down transformer, and some new gear, main switch gear. This is in conjunction with that to obviously replace everything that comes into the building. So this is all the rest of that equipment in the electrical room. The breakers now in that room, we have a couple that actually hum just because of the age of the unit. So they're obviously actually using more electricity because they're not working properly. So this is just I guess the final phase of our distribution system over at the high school to complete that moving forward, and for us to be able to obviously add some circuits, not a lot, but at this point in time, we don't even have the ability to add an outlet at that facility. And I believe you guys heard this before. During the summer months, our electrician goes in and adds outlets and things of that nature for AC for certain students that require climate control. This would eliminate us having to do some of that work by adding, obviously, this equipment in that facility.
And if I'm correct, Bruce, it also allows us to sort of compartmentalize and shut down areas of the building where when we've had outages in the past, the whole building goes down.
That's correct. So we can't isolate certain systems at that facility just because of the age of the breaker. So if you turn one of these big, giant, large breakers off, we don't know if we're going to be able to turn it back on given the age of the equipment. So that's one of the big safety concerns I have at that facility.
Yeah, Bruce, if I recall correctly, we we had this conversation last year, and you were able to find a secondary source to purchase those Westinghouse switches?
Yes, but those are used equipment in California. There's no warranty on that equipment. So we've actually did purchase one a few years ago, Gordon, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like $3,000 and obviously with no warranty. So you can get them, but they're used equipment. There's no kind of reliability, I guess you can say, Tom, with purchasing that used stuff.
Is that the one over at Maple Shade, Bruce?
No, I don't believe so. Maybe it was the one that we had to do for the kitchen.
Okay. Well, we had the
one, yeah.
we had 3 burnt out areas in the kitchen that, although certainly a fire risk, it was a great visual prop to show MSBA
Right.
when they came through.
Exactly.
So a couple of questions. Gordon, when you were talking about this, I thought maybe I misheard you. Which if there was a problem, it would shut down electricity for the entire high school, and B, that it could be weeks to months before it was back up and operating?
Yeah, so it's been my understanding as we work with this aging electrical system that if we're going to replace the existing parts that have failed, you have to go to secondary markets to find this because they're no longer stocked in our regular vendors. Bruce, would that be accurate?
Yes, we did. Yeah, exactly. It'd be like searching on the internet for parts, and hopefully we find one. So
that estimate is a possibility. Is that what you're saying?
It is if we don't continue to mitigate and do some of the changes with the switchgear.
All right. Yeah, I had second question. You said replacement, and then you mentioned a little bit of an upgrade, because I thought also I heard either Gordon or you say, Bruce, that you're basically at capacity or over capacity. So spending this money, and are you getting some upgrades so you have something at least
If I'm understanding
what your current capacity is?
If I'm understanding what Bruce said, one of the things that we consistently do at the high school with our IEPs and our individual health plans, we do have students who need climate controlled areas. And Bruce had mentioned that every summer the electrician comes over and we basically can manage somewhere between, say, 10 to 12 air conditioners. And we try to put them in the most efficient spots to handle this. And then obviously we have to work with our families because there will be many places that are not climate controlled, which technically puts us out of compliance with IEPs and individual health plans. So far, our families have been incredibly cooperative and collaborative with us. But this, it sounds like, would allow us to maybe add to that mix a little bit so that we're not just juggling the 10 to 12 that currently are here.
Gordon, this is probably a question for you. This is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
It has to do with what are you doing at the high school to reduce the need for this electricity with regards to extra equipment in the classrooms, like personal items? Not necessary?
Well, one thing at the high school, you actually do not have the current recommended outlets. So in the regular learning space, we have fewer outlets anyway. But for the most part, if I don't know if you're alluding to sort of the one-to-one program, our expectation is that the students arrive with their computers charged and ready to go. In terms of use of equipment, our teachers are not necessarily using overheads and that type of thing anymore. They're now projecting onto, I think, more efficient screens and Apple TVs. Would I be correct with that, Ryan?
Yeah, they use projectors, which are, probably would use a little bit more power than a traditional transparency overhead would, or a projector would. But we've removed the computers from all the classrooms. There's no computer labs. Everything's laptop based. So they use, they're much more power efficient. And like Gordon said, most of the students bring their Chromebooks from home already charged. So there's no electrical demand there.
Okay, I'm also referring to personal items that some of the teachers may bring in the classrooms.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so we've gone through classrooms and removed some of that. Actually, we did with the fire department, because not only is it
Correct.
energy consumption, but it's also can be a fire hazard. So
Right.
we've tried to coordinate that and put things like microwaves and other coffee machines and so forth into common areas, so there are fewer in the building, and they're not scattered in every classroom.
Okay.
Hey, Bruce.
So,
Bruce, if we fund this project, is this going to get us the 7± years in the electrical system to if we get a new building, in your opinion?
I don't know. I can't answer that, Greg, because we have other distribution panels. Obviously, this is the main stuff coming into the building, which is my main priority, to isolate other distribution systems that are farther out in the building. It's more of a safety reason, because I'm not even sure if, say if the gym, large gym panel suddenly fried, I'm not sure that the existing distribution equipment that we're looking to replace in the head end portion of the building is actually going to trip. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a, it's kind of a complicated electrical system over at the high school. But like I said, by completing this project, I believe it can get us obviously into a new building if we decide to move forward with a new building. So I would say maybe.
Okay, but because we can isolate sections, though, at least it eliminates the catastrophic
Yes.
building closure. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any other questions for the electrical switchgear replacement at the high school for $119,000? All right.
just for clarification purposes, the gear switch replacement is not really increasing capacity on the building. And I kind of think that was a question that Jim was asking. I think that if we replace it, obviously the integrity of new parts could stop further failures down the road. If you want to look at this gear replacement panel, pretty much like as a bridge. So if the bridge doesn't work properly and there was a short down the road, then it would fry the panel, as Bruce was saying. And if any of those components are weaker, then like all circuit breakers aren't created equal. As time goes on, the capacity for them to perform the way they were originally designed is compromised.
Right.
So I hope that helps with Jim and Tom's question a little bit, and a little bit more elaborating on Tom's. And a lot of the personal items that you were talking about are pretty much so low draw items, short of coffee pots, microwaves, and air conditioning.
Right.
So the only question I'd ask too, and I believe it's kind of been asked, is if we move forward with a new building, we all know that's going to take X amount of time.
Right.
So this could be crucial. If this fails, we're going to lose different portions of the building, and God only knows how long it might take to find those parts to bring that portion of the building back online.
Exactly.
That's it. Well put. I think the biggest reason for this was to be that bridge, and Bruce hasn't said it, but we've discussed it many times, also to mitigate any possible fire risk.
Yeah, and like I said, we took some action last year, myself and Gordon, just because of my worry over that facility. So we did do some work last year, minimal amount. I think we spent $24,000 just to get some things done over there, and we split that cost out of our operational budget. Just like I said, I'm getting very nervous with the existing equipment over at that facility.
We decided on the action. I didn't actually put a tool belt on and do any work last year with that. That would be even more dangerous.
Bruce, just to hit it home in terms of talking about a new project, I don't know if you all can see at the bottom of our ELPS FY 2021, there's a full electrical service upgrade of $3.5 million. So if not for a new building project, then eventually we'll have to talk about something like that, Bruce, if not more, in terms of the electrical service?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
All right. No other questions on the electrical switchgear replacement for the high school. We'll move on to the parking lot redesign of Meadowbrook for $186,094.
So over the years, Meadowbrook has found that both sides, we utilize both sides of the building. There are two parking lots that could be configured much more efficiently. And so we right now crowd on both sides and end up many days parking just with regular operations on the grass. And so what this project is to reconfigure some of the, for lack of a better term, traffic islands to avoid parking on the grass on both sides of the building and open up more spaces.
Anybody have any questions?
I do. Bruce, this is the question for you. Last year, we authorized the expenditure to put up new lighting in the parking areas.
Mhm.
And we spent $30,000 of a $50,000 capital budget item. Is this that parking lot?
Yes.
So we've got new lighting up, and now we're looking to redesign the parking lot with new lighting that we've just put up.
There would be some additional lighting, not much though, Tom. So we're taking out, like you said, we've got pretty much the spread that covers the entire parking lot. So this is taking out islands on the front side and then an island on the back side to help with the increased parking. So the lighting should be sufficient.
Okay.
I don't think lighting is part of the scope of work that we're putting in here, I don't believe.
I think it was moving the traffic island,
Traffic, yeah.
restriping and
Yep.
paving.
The justification, Bruce, on the second page of it does say additional site lighting is added to the project due to safety and security concerns. At least the one I'm looking at. Actually the heading on the you know.
Oh,
the-
yeah, see, yeah, yep, but that we could, that's not an issue.
Would that change the amount if you
No.
didn't? It would
No.
not.
No, that shouldn't be on there.
Yeah. So this is just an aside question, Bruce. With the capital request of 50, and we've only spent 30, you're going to be returning $20,000 back to the fund?
It's not even on my list. I believe so. Whatever was turned in, I don't have it on my list, so I'm assuming that's already been turned into the obviously to the town.
To our finance department?
Yep. It's not on my list, so it's been completed and turned in. And the only reason we were able to do that cheaper on the cheap side is obviously we work with an outside vendor in conjunction with DPW staff.
Good.
All right, anybody else have any questions about the parking lot redesign for Meadowbrook? All right, Gordon, Birchland Park carpet replacement for $43,900.
Okay, so Birchland is now 20 years old, built in 2000, and these are original carpets in the library, the computer rooms, and the chorus rooms. And basically, what's starting to happen is that they have ripples throughout them. They're starting to come up and can be a tripping hazard. So we're looking to replace those and rectify that situation with new carpets.
All right, anybody have any questions about the carpet replacement? Okay. Right along. Resurfacing the track for district-wide at the high school. 129,983 with 28,000 coming from the rental account.
Yes, so this is a replacement of the current track that's out there. The stadium field and the track were finished in 2011 and opened then. Tracks this type of surface tend to have a life expectancy somewhere between, say, 9 and 12 years. We're right at 9 years, and we wanted to start to get this on the capital plan. The hope had always been, given that we do have a rental of the facility, that we would utilize money from that account to offset some of this resurfacing. I'm not sure what the whole COVID-19 is going to do to our ability to rent, but currently we have 28,000 that we can put toward that project.
I just for some clarification, I'm sorry, Gordon.
Mhm.
So typically a rubber ice track surface only life expectancy is 6 to 8 years before it's advised to be recoated. If we don't follow this recoating this year and the track starts to delaminate, you're talking about $250,000 to $300,000 in order to resurface the track. So we're almost.
True?
Yes.
Bruce, is that true with the, because we had put that additional, we went from the black surface to the red surface. And I thought when we did that, it gave us an extra 2 to 4 years.
No, not what I'm looking at based on Gale Associates recommendation. As noted in our meeting, latex tracks are recommended to be recoated every 6 to 8 years.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah, no, it's
incorrect on that one. Thank you.
and I'm just like I said, I know it's very important for us to obviously get this done sooner than later, because like you said, obviously peeling up that track and redoing it's going to be very extensive. So by just recoating it, you're just putting down a layer of material and then obviously applying lines. If we obviously let it go even further, as you can see, it's starting to delaminate on certain areas on the edge of the track where it meets the asphalt. Like I said, it's just going to be a lot more money, obviously, to redo down the road.
Bruce, does the recoding get us another 6 to 8 years? Do you know?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Bruce, would anyone come out from the company and evaluate that for us to see where we are in that time frame?
Yep, I've already have, and that's yep, and that was the summer of last year.
Is the track currently open right now?
No, we closed it last week. We were starting to get outside teams coming to practice on the field. So we did end up closing it. We had kept it open for the most part. And we did have people responsibly running and walking on the track right up until last week. And unfortunately, as the weather started to get better, we started to see outside teams as well as some East Longmeadow students getting on there and practicing and having sort of impromptu games, if you will. So we did close it last week.
All right, everybody good with the resurfacing the track? All right, Gordon, if you want to give us some information on the gym floor replacement at Mountain View for $65,000.
So this is a gym floor that is not a wooden floor. It's, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, these are the square, almost asbestos
VCT
tiles,
tile.
am I correct in that?
Yeah, VCT tile. Yep.
Oh, VCT, okay. And it's past its life expectancy, and we were hoping to correct issues that are on that floor, given that we use it not only for the school phys ed classes, but we also use it for rec basketball and so forth for the town.
Anybody have any questions about the floor replacement?
What kind of floor replacement would it be, Bruce? Same kind of tile or something different?
Wood.
Yeah, we were
Wood.
looking to do wood.
So is it the condition now, is it unplayable, or is it something that, you know, is just starting to show some of the wear that suggests it should be replaced? Or is it the surface itself that's outdated and you want to get a,
Oh, I think it's a combination of all those things, Jim. It's a outdated surface, but it's also now becoming more and more of an uneven surface. And certainly over time, you know, we've patched certain areas to keep it going. We utilize it every day, but this would be a way to improve that facility.
All right. No other questions on the gym floor replacement in Mountain View. We'll move on to the outside play area renovation at Maple Shade for $65,208.
So this is the asphalt area outside on the back of Maple Shade. It's got a series of basketball hoops, and on the blacktop, it also has Foursquare painted on it, and it's used on a daily basis by our students during recess. And so this would be basically renovating that area, putting down new asphalt, fixing the basketball hoops, and repainting the different Foursquare areas and so forth.
Anybody have any questions on it?
Bruce, I know there's a couple of hoops there. Do you know if there's room there to actually put a full court in? I know there's been a push for many years to get a real outside basketball court in this town.
I don't think so, but I know we did install another hoop this past fall, I believe, for Mr. Fredette. And just thinking out loud, Gordon, I'm sorry, but now that I think about it, do you remember the size of the trenching we had to install in order to get the steam pipes down in those tunnels? So just to kind of give the whole committee kind of a feel for what transpired over there. So some of the tunnels have access points to access these tunnels underneath the building. In order for us to obviously get that 16 to 20 foot piping down in those tunnels, we actually had to excavate trenches probably 20 feet long by 5 to 6 feet deep in order to get the pipe down into the basement in order to do some of those repairs. So we have to keep that in mind, obviously in conjunction with this. And I didn't really think about this, Gordon, when we were talking about submitting this plan for this year. It's just something to obviously to think about.
No, it makes sense. I mean, that they had to trench all the way around the building.
You know what I mean? So
Pipe in.
yeah, I think it's premature to move forward with this project. I think it needs to stay on the list, but until we complete the steam piping, and I don't want to speak for the school committee or you, but I think we should think about deferring this until the steam pipe is done.
Well, and I you know, obviously I can't speak for the school committee. Greg is with us, and he could probably speak for the school committee, but their number one priority is the steam piping.
Yeah, obviously we do that first, but I don't want to overlook the importance of quality of life in East Long Meadow and what this sort of project does for the whole community. It's used often, and to have a better facility, we really need more of this kind of thing in town, because I think we're lacking in that department. So yeah, definitely deferring certainly makes sense, but I think sometimes we overlook small projects like this and how much they actually impact the quality of life here.
All right, Capital Committee, anybody have any other questions about the play area renovation at Maple Shade? All right, moving on to the roof replacement of the flat sections at Maple Shade for $1.21 million.
So this is a replacement for, just as it's written there, the flat section. The two slanted sections over the cafeteria and the gym were replaced in 2011. That was when, during that 2010-2011 school year, we had a number of snowstorms between December and February, and we started to see the beams in the cafeteria start to crack under the weight of the snow. And in that February, we moved the entire Maple Shade operation to Memorial School in Hamden Wilbraham. And then through insurance, we were able to replace the roof over the cafeteria. And since the gym also had similar beam type and roof type structure, we replaced that. This would be finishing off the replacement of all the flat sections of roof.
All right, thank you. Capital Committee, does anybody have any questions on the roof replacement at Maple Shade?
I have a question for, I guess it would be a question for Bruce. We approved last year a bunch of youth rooftop units having to do with HVAC. Was that for that school?
I don't recall a project for Maple Shade for rooftop replacements for last.
Yeah, there were HVAC units for either Mountain View or Meadowbrook.
I would imagine it was for Meadowbrook because we were doing a roof project at that time. We were doing it through the MSBA.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Yeah, I misunderstood your question. So yes, and part of Gordon obviously submitted that plan for through the MSBA. Like I said, boilers, windows and doors, and roofs are part of that accelerated repair program. So we did complete Meadowbrook School. I believe, Gordon, November, December. I think we just a few months ago was just completed.
They're still working on the roof. They're finishing in terms of the HVAC. That's finished. What they're doing now is they're doing the final caulking, and they have to go through all the seal tests.
Right. Yeah, but to answer your question, Tom, there was no money for HVAC units. It was just a roof replacement, and then just some minor upgrades to some of the older equipment. But that was it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't putting up units on top and then repairing, and that we were following standard practice to follow after these HVAC installers to make sure they're not the ones that are damaging the roof.
Right. No, it's a great point, Tom. And we've learned, well, Bruce already knows all of this, but I've learned a great deal about what's on top of roofs with the Meadowbrook project. And certainly we don't want to, if we have a new membrane down, we don't want the HVAC folks coming in and causing more punctures in that membrane.
Right, and part of that project too, a lot of maintenance mats should be obviously around all of our equipment, obviously just to cut down on traffic and obviously protect the roof. So in all the RTUs and equipment that is on Meadowbrook School, every one of them have a maintenance mat and obviously a walking path, and including ladders and everything else that we currently did not have at that facility. So it's going to be a good upgrade and obviously moving forward.
That's good. That's good. Thank you.
I had a question, Ryan. For the, and first of all, let me just say, I mean, you know, looking through the list, I mean, I don't see any project that the school is proposing that would not be worthy of trying to do. It's more, all our questions are more about the limited resources as opposed to whether they make sense to be done or not. But the detail on the Maple Shade roof replacement speaks to the fact that the roof is old, over 20 years old, and out of warranty. It doesn't talk about leaking or whatever. So how serious is the situation there, or is it something that, are you experiencing major issues now, or is it something that should be done in the not too distant future?
You want me to take a shot at that, Bruce, or you want to?
Sure. Yeah. I can.
I mean, the reality is, anytime we get to 15, 20, or 20 plus years, and sadly with flat roofs, even sometimes before you get to 15 years, there's leaking. With some of the winters we've had recently, all of our buildings have leaked when you have situations where you have some snow cover up there, then you have some melting, and then you have the term I've come to hate as a superintendent, the wintry mix. And then that wintry mix allows the water to get captured under the snowpack, and it goes every which way on flat roofs. And on those situations, with the exception probably now of Meadowbrook, the water finds its way into all our buildings. So basically, it really depends on the winter and the amount of precipitation we have. Generally with maple shade, you're dealing with leaks that are probably predominantly in hallways. And so it's sort of making sure that that's cordoned off, and our custodial staff does a nice job with that. We haven't had a ton of situations where we've had to move classrooms. We had more of that at Meadowbrook, which hopefully now with the roof project we have going on there, that will be ended and resolved. But you know, it's the longer you wait, the harder it is for us to patch and keep up with areas that become weaker and start to leak.
Understood.
All right. Anyone else have any questions about the roof replacement at Maple Shade? So we'll move on to the office renovations at Mountain View for $256,539.
So these are, you probably have seen over time, if you've looked at the facility study that we finished back in 2013, in most of our buildings, there were recommendations from the architectural firm that did that facility study to make our office space both more efficient and also increase the security of all of our buildings. In Meadowbrook and Mountain View, you have a situation where once someone comes in and you can see them with our camera systems with Ryan's help have become incredibly efficient and allow us to see much more of what's going on all around the outside of our buildings. But there still is a blind spot as you let that person, any person, into the building. And that blind spot is, through the front door, they can access cafeteria in both buildings and a main hallway before any office personnel would see them again once they're entering. So that was one of the main concerns that was brought up in the facility study. And then just the sort of the inefficiency of how our offices are set up in terms of where the staff room is, where the main office is, and sort of making that flow much more efficient. That was the gist of that in the facility study for these two offices.
All right, thanks, Gordon. Does anyone on the committee have any questions about the office renovation at Mountain View?
Ryan, just wanted to touch on the fact, and Gordon kind of did as well, that we're also looking in the next fiscal year for Meadowbrook and Maple Shade as well for the same reason. So just wanted to make a point of that as well.
Well, thanks, Greg. All right, no questions on the office renovations. We'll move on to the high school Skylight replacement for $20,600.
So this is something each year, similar to what we're doing with the electrical system. We work with DPW and look to see where we can do smaller projects to keep things going. Obviously, we'd like to see a full comprehensive project take place at the high school. We're into the MSBA system, but certainly we know that that's somewhere between a 5 to 7 year window to complete. And so we do need to keep the building going. Why originally people felt skylights were great things across an expansive flat roof, I'm not sure. I do obviously appreciate natural light, but they become an incredible source of problem area for leaks and so forth.
Bruce, do you know what percentage has been replaced already?
Oh God, we typically try to do, depending on the size, probably 10 per year. I don't have a total. I gotta say we've probably replaced just regular out of operational monies, probably at least 30 to 35 units already during the summer months. Typically try to limit our, obviously, expenditures through our maintenance, but we typically replace 8 to 10 per year during the
And
summer.
how many will this cover then, the 20,000?
That'll probably cover 20, depending on size.
And how many in the building, do you know, Bruce?
I don't offhand, unfortunately.
100?
Sorry. I don't know. I want to say probably, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, does the committee have any questions on the high school skylight replacements for 20,600? Hearing none, we'll move on to the furniture replacement for the art room cafeteria at the high school for 166,488.
So this is also coming from the facility study that we completed for all 5 buildings back in 2013. And the idea there is that you can, as you're working towards a more comprehensive project, if you can purchase tables and newer furniture that can be used in a new building and that can be taken with you, then that's probably an efficient way to go about it. Some of the tables in our art room are probably now 20 to 25 years old. We're looking to purchase tables. We did this specifically with some of our old computer rooms where we've now outfitted what we call collaborative spaces. As we took the stationary desktop computers out, we put in furniture that can be reconfigured many different ways very easily and set up for any specific activity that a teacher may want to do. And we can take that furniture with us to a new structure. And so that would be our goal. This is continuing with that same type of plan, updating our art room and in certain areas, our cafeteria tables.
Thank you.
So this is Ryan, just an effort to improve the building and the experience for our students who are in this old building, but not actually spend money on the physical structure. So to make the educational process a little bit better, a little more modern, and Gordon alluded to that, but it's a small investment and it makes a huge difference in the educational experience for those who will be in this old building for now.
Yeah, and then we could bring them to the new school. I mean, the tables that are in there probably still have Bruce's name carved in them.
We've been trying to get those out one by one each year.
All right, does the committee have any questions on a furniture replacement for the art and cafeteria rooms for 166,488? All right. So next we're going to move on off of your normal priority list into, these are the MSBA eligible ones, I believe, right? Or
Yeah, so
kind of like
these-
separate ones?
Right. The reason we separated those out is because some of the projects above are little pieces that can keep the building going. And then these are the real costs of some of the things that have driven us toward going for a comprehensive project through the MSBA, which, being invited into the eligibility period is pretty exciting for us because that starts the process. And now we're sort of on the, in their system and on the clock, so to speak, or the clock actually starts June 1st. And so this really was separated out because we don't ever want to lose sight of the cost of these full projects, but we also realized that if we do a comprehensive project at the high school, that these would be resolved within that comprehensive project. I think the biggest part that we need to keep in the discussion is the feasibility study, because that's the item within the eligibility period. There are 8 items that we have to accomplish during the eligibility period, but one of those items is to appropriate funding for a feasibility study. And once we do that, similar to, say, the accelerated repair projects, then the MSBA would be reimbursing us along the way as we're invoiced for that feasibility study. And the feasibility study would look at all the things that we've said are challenges at the existing building, start to really outline what the costs would be to either do a comprehensive renovation or replace with a new building. And then once they complete that study, we all have a chance with their team to review the study and make a much more informed decision as to which way to go and what the cost would be and so forth. The advantage, obviously, of being in their system is that even as you're doing the study, they're reimbursing you. I don't know what the percentage would be for the feasibility study, because each time you enter a new project, they reestablish what the rate would be. But our last two projects with the MSBA, we've been at 55% reimbursement for, and I should say for eligible costs, because there are costs that they deem. So it doesn't mean that you're getting 55% necessarily for the entire project. You're getting 55% on eligible costs.
So,
Gordon, did we get any, I'm sorry, Ryan.
Oh, go ahead, Mary.
Do we have any further information on the timing of that
Yeah,
270
absolutely.
days?
Yeah, so it's a 207-day period. We were originally slated to start June 1st, and it would end, our period ended somewhere around February 27th, if I'm correct on that. And we have had a couple conference calls with the MSBA, and I think many districts have had conference calls with the MSBA who are in various levels of projects with them because of COVID-19 and a change in operations. And tonight on our school committee regular meeting, we're going to discuss the possibility of extending the start date. And so it could go out to September 1 as a start date or October 1, which would move the timeline in terms of appropriating that money probably to somewhere in April, early May. One of the things that they described to us is that even though, so they may say in our current timeline, February 27th is the end date. If we were to stay in that timeline, they really want us to give them about a 2 to 3 week notice so that they can then get it on a board, MSBA board agenda. So you would backtrack off any end date for the timeline about 2 to 3 weeks. So if the school committee votes to move it out, and certainly they were in the discussion with all of you about requesting an extension, hopefully we can move it out to either September 1 or October 1 and, you know, put us in a better position at that time where Birchland's coming off our long-term debt, and we can make a much more informed decision. Hopefully we know much more in terms of how COVID-19 operations have affected everything that we do.
Okay, so just to be clear, the MSBA, do they have to then approve this, whatever the vote of the school committee? Or have they already advised you that you have the discretion to move it out?
We have the discretion to move it out with the school committee vote, and also a commitment that the town would then, since say if we go to October 1, we'll be looking for finalizing the discussion somewhere in late April. You know, that the town felt they could commit to that type of time frame. What they'd be looking for is an email from me indicating the school committee has discussed it, the town council is aware of it, and as you see from most of their correspondence, it comes to both town manager, superintendent, and school committee chair when they communicate on any given project. So they would confirm that probably in the same way once I send them the email.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Questions? I have a couple questions.
I'm getting a delivery, so
Yeah.
Gary, can you grab the next couple of projects and I'll go quiet my dogs down?
Yeah, that wasn't one of them. Yeah. Gordon, from whether you are successful pushing off the start date, it still sounds like any appropriation for funding of the study would have to be for the current for the fiscal year that we're in the budgeting process for.
Well, it's my understanding when discussing some of our accelerated projects that if we took the vote to appropriate the money, or the town council would be committing to appropriating the money, and you might be able to do through free cash or a short-term bond any of the initial phases, and then put together in FY22 a larger package for bonding, you know, some of the other capital projects that we might be looking at next spring.
But the vote to commit to the 1,260,000 would have to be taken in
In
FY
FY21.
21.
Yeah, the cost though might not have to be incurred in FY.
The full cost may not have to be paid in FY 21.
Correct. And
And
obviously, the fact that we'd be in the MSBA process, because once the town commits, then they send us what they call a project funding agreement and commit to reimbursing us along the way. So the way that's worked with the accelerated repair process, last spring or maybe last winter, the town committed to the full price of the roof at Meadowbrook. However, once we did that and we sent in the certified vote, a week or two later, the MSBA board sent out a project funding agreement for that, identified the full budget, and then showed where we were getting our reimbursement up to 55% for the eligible cost.
So that's one of my other questions. More the mechanics of it. The 55% or the reimbursement, whatever percentage is calculated.
Mhm.
Do you get that for purely having funded and produced the feasibility study, or do you get that only if you are successful in getting a school building project approved, and then it becomes reimbursed as part of the overall school building project?
So with the feasibility study, if we commit and appropriate the full amount, we would be reimbursed throughout that process as we're being invoiced from the group that is selected to do the feasibility study. The MSBA would be paying throughout that process. Then, just as I think you were alluding to, once we have the feasibility study done, now we have much more informed and specific information around cost for any particular project, whether it be a comprehensive renovation or new building. That becomes a whole nother process and project funding agreement. And certainly that would be many different public discussions.
All right, thank you. That's helpful. One last question on it. If you don't get appropriation for or a commitment to fund the feasibility study, do you, by the 270th day or whatever, do you then drop out of the race for the building project? So this is like the quid pro quo.
Yeah, you go back to square one.
Right.
And my guess would be, although they say politics never plays into it, that you're probably even lower than square one, given the small exchange that I saw between some MSBA officials at a conference after Holyoke had their vote not to pass the two middle schools. It seemed like they were taking it incredibly personally. So I think there's always emotion involved.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Gordon, one quick question. The 1.260, we could be eligible for 55% of that back, correct?
Yes, so that's, and so I just want to make sure that I'm saying this exactly how they want me to say it. We would be eligible for reimbursement, possibly up to 55. That's been the percentage that we've been getting with other projects, but they would recalculate again as we go through this. Truth be told, maybe it even goes higher, because I know our free and reduced lunch right now during this COVID-19 closure has now increased during the months of March and April. But that's a whole separate situation. But yes, Mike, we would be eligible for reimbursement right throughout the feasibility study. All they're looking for is the commitment to what we feel the potential price would be for the feasibility study, and then they partner with you by issuing that project funding agreement.
Just to piggyback on Mike's question, Gordon. So does the town have to commit to 100% of the price with the understanding there's going to be a reimbursement? Is that how the town is required to do it?
Yeah, the vote, they actually prescribe the exact language of the motion for the vote. And we put in the amount, the full amount, not, taking out our reimbursement.
Okay.
And then they, after they see that commitment, issue the project funding agreement.
Thank you.
Gordon, I had a question. I'm late to this party, so where did that 1.260 figure come from?
So that's a combination of looking at projects similar to or feasibility studies for high schools that might be similar square footage or as East Long Meadow High School, along with help from Bruce to figure out, how accurate we are. It is somewhat of a, an estimate that we have to come up with. All they do, they being the MSBA, is guide us to all this information of projects that have been accomplished and feasibility studies that have been accomplished. So it's our best estimate. Our hope is it's going to be lower than that. With each of our numbers that we came up with, say for the roof project at Meadowbrook and for the windows and doors, we have had an estimate that's been above what the bids have come back at. And so we've been in very good shape in each of those projects to handle contingency situations, change orders, and also offer a savings.
So it's essentially an internal assessment.
It's an estimate that we've come up with using their resources. As much as I try to push them, and over the last 7 years, I've developed a pretty good relationship. They're not going to give me a number.
Right. No, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, no, I wish they would. But
No problem.
that's where Bruce and I go through spreadsheets of different projects and try to come up with a number that seems to be logical.
And I think we came up with that number too, Gordon, based on the surrounding communities and what they allocated for their projects that are similar to ours.
Right.
So Mary, if I could just reiterate that time frame again, if we do postpone that, the whole process, and I know you were in conversation with us at our last meeting with Mike and Kathy, that we would be looking for a vote of the town council probably in April to allocate the funds for the facility study,
Yes.
and whether from free cash or from bonding. MSBA does not recommend that it goes to a vote of the town, even though we have the right to do that. The vote of the town would then be on the full project. That would be the opportunity for the town to weigh in, but just in terms of the logistics of how it's all going to come together.
No, I do remember that conversation, Greg. My concern is our free cash. The funding sources might present further difficulties in light of everything else that we're dealing with, but
Sure.
No problem. I understand the pros and cons of trying to do it finance it internally is certainly probably better for the project, I would
Sure.
suspect.
Right. So, but if bonding is then the option, I guess my other point is just that the two options would be to go to the full town for a full vote or to the town council for their allocation. And MSBA recommends the council go the first round, and then the town would get their say on the full vote of the project.
Yes,
Just in terms of successful outcomes.
thanks. No, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
And the hope with the extension is that we would be able to push the majority of our cost into FY22.
Right.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
I think we're finished on the MSBA project, Ryan, but I'm not certain if anybody else has any questions.
Not me.
Okay.
All answered.
Beautiful. Next, we'll move on to the electrical service upgrade for $3,595,320. Kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but if you want to just give us a little more info on it, it'd be great.
Sure. I think all of these projects are basically just giving you an idea of what the full project would be. We touched upon in the 12 projects that are on the top of that list, smaller portions of, say, the electrical service or roof replacement when we're looking to do things such as resealing and replacing the domes of the Skylight. This just gives you the magnitude of why we're seeking to and finally have gotten into at least the eligibility process of the MSBA building process.
So these last three are not requests, but more like informational?
Right. Yeah, they're not requests at the moment, because if we continue down the road of the eligibility period and the feasibility study, which we were just discussing, a comprehensive project would cover and resolve all these issues. You know, you could add to that list plumbing, you know, HVAC. There's numerous other projects that will be resolved by a comprehensive renovation or a new building.
Ryan, you mentioned the following three. There's actually four, and I'm not sure if the fourth one, parking lot catch basin renovation, is part of that.
Yeah, I think Ryan, yeah, I mean, the feasibility study isn't numbered. So you're right, Tom. You know, there are four below. The feasibility is really the one that I think would be in the mix of our discussion around all capital projects next spring.
Right, so we're officially requesting the feasibility study. The other three are more informational.
Right, yep, because the feasibility study is the kind of the road to eliminating the other three.
Correct. Good way of saying it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the high school roof replacement. Bruce, this goes back to conversations that I've had as a member of the Capital Committee for the last 4 or 5 years, where the issues first surfaced, and there was discussions about the freshman wing being the problem.
Well, it's obviously the freshman wing didn't even make the list.
It is, Bruce, on the spreadsheet actually that they have.
I don't see.
The spreadsheet, when you look at roof replacement, it still has the, it should still have the freshman wing in there for $218,195.
On the 5-year plan, Bruce.
Oh, right. Well, a major portion of the roofs, Tom, to answer your question, is the freshman wing, because it's actually tenting and pulling away from the fascia. So that is a big concern of mine, even as we move forward. So that's a big area, but the whole entire roof, Tom, there's multiple leaks, many different areas. So this is the whole entire roof. But like I said, my biggest concern is the freshman wing.
Okay.
But there's the whole roof needs to be replaced. But the thing that sticks out most to me is obviously the freshman wing.
So should we consider that? Did you say 218 for the freshman wing? I don't have the backup stuff here at home.
I got it right here for you.
Just wondering if it makes sense for the committee to consider that piece of it if the project, even if it goes forward, is 7 years away.
Just from a committee standpoint, Mary, we've had discussions on this with Bruce, and our logic has been to spend as little money as on the existing building that if we do get a new or a comprehensive project, that it would be not necessarily wasted money, because I get your point about the 7 years, but if we could get by without spending that chunk of change, then we're going to continue to try to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's wise, certainly. But I think I detect something in Bruce's voice that makes me think he's more than worried about this.
I am, but that's not my decision. That's school committee and Gordon.
We had that core sampled and everything, right, Bruce?
Yes. Yes.
We had Garland come do a thermal scan of the entire roof, and we have that. The same gentleman, I don't think he's with them anymore, Bruce Garland, but he came over and looked at the steel decking of that roof, specifically over the freshman and sophomore wing. And he said our steel decking still looked to be in great shape. He didn't see any rust or any problems with it. But you are absolutely correct. The tenting and ponding is more so on that section of the roof than other sections of the roof.
Exactly. That's my only concern, is that one area.
Are there
Okay.
options to fix the freshman section of the roof that can get us through 10 years instead of spending all the money on a 50-year roof?
Well, I believe that's and I don't have it in front of me, my notes, when it comes down to that repair on what the warranty. I want to say it was more of a 10 to 15-year warranty. They make, and just so the committee knows, they make many different options. They can give you, and Gordon, I know you were involved with this too. They have some type of material, actually you roll down over the existing roof to add an additional 5 to 7 years to the life expectancy of a roof. There's different options you can follow in order to do some repairs for short-term fixes. Obviously the long-term fix is the thing in question. So the only thing, like I said, with this area over the freshman wing, there's no coating that can be applied. It's the membrane itself that's obviously stretching. And like I said, it's just a big concern of mine. So
This is all rubber membrane.
this is the only one. So typically the rest of the roof is the EPDM roof, but this is the Firestone. It's a black membrane. The rest of the roofs in town are EPDM. This was done, Gordon, 80s when actually a model or a gas-powered plane hit the area, I believe, and caused a fire. So they did a quick fix by installing this membrane over that specific area in freshman wing.
I think it was in the 90s, Bruce?
Was it?
Yeah, I think so, because we're most of the that type of membrane has like a 15-year warranty.
Right.
And then the EPDM seems to carry the 20 to 25.
Yep. Or even 30, I believe 30 year, if you get the right thickness, obviously.
All right.
I don't know if it was Ryan who flew that plane when he was a student here or not.
Very well could have been.
Now he has a drone, so it's different.
A freshman wing, front of the building, second floor, obviously.
Back.
This is the back. You can
Back.
see it from the central office door.
Okay.
If you just look as you're facing our door to the left, it's that wing.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure the leak wasn't over Ryan's portion of the building.
Yeah, Ryan's safe.
Maybe up there with some tar, don't worry.
Most of our leaks lately have been in central office, so Pam and I just bring umbrellas.
Those are from the
Yeah.
skylights too.
Yeah, that's highlights. That's exactly where they're coming from.
In fact, on one of the tours, I do remember the buckets on the second floor in the rear of the building catching water. So.
Sure. And our
Thank you
locker
very
rooms have, last couple storms have had some issues. Water, I don't know if the leak's directly above it or whether it's traveling. But then it's come through last spring and summer. It came through a heat sensor, which then set off our fire alarm.
Mm.
It's enjoyable. I like to get those calls around midnight.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for the school committee on any of their projects, or Gordon or Greg or Pam, anything else that you would like the committee to know about any of your existing projects?
No,
Ryan, if I,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Gordon.
I was just going to say, we appreciate everybody's input and questions, and thank you for collaborating on all this with us, because it's something that certainly needs a lot of different perspectives to put it all together.
And I just wanted to make my annual plug. I know we're all in this together. We're all one town, but in terms of the schools, if you look at our 5-year plan, we average about $3 million in requests per year. The next 4 years, 12 million. This year, 4 million. Annually, historically, we received anywhere between 500,000 and maybe up to 1 million annually. So as we keep pushing out projects, they keep backing up. And as you know, we have older buildings. Many of our schools are older, and we're just looking out for the quality of the educational experience in this town. So I know this is a unique year. Again, we're all in it together, but I just wanted to make that plug that we have a lot of things that we need to do. I know somebody said before there's value in all the requests that we've made this year, and certainly we could add to that too. But if we can find our way to start following the 5-year plan a little closer, just to make these buildings a little bit better and last a little bit longer than a worthy investment. So just wanted to make that plug.
So noted.
All right, thanks, guys. So I'm gonna have you guys go back to the audience if no one else has any questions for you.
Hey, Ryan, I really like the spreadsheet that you used in putting it up on the screen. I watched your last meeting. It's very helpful the way you've laid it out. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you for putting that together like that.
No, that's an excellent tool. And Gordon and Pam, I really just want to say thank you. You know, the backup information here is very helpful to me. As I say, I'm not as familiar with these projects as some of the other people on this committee, but I appreciate your input greatly.
Oh, yeah, you're
Thanks.
welcome. And we owe it all. We work really closely with Bruce and Joe on all of this as we go through every year's capital planning and mitigating any smaller projects. DPW is a fantastic partner throughout all of this.
Thank you, Gordon.
Well said, Gordon.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you all.
Ryan, do you have any virtual refreshments in your waiting room?
I do, just go check them out.
Okay. I figure you're going to put me out there right now, correct?
Phone number for DoorDash for you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Greg.
All right. So
Ryan,
now,
is Jeff D'Alessio in the audience by any chance? Can you tell me?
he is not.
Okay.
Want me to text him?
Yeah, if you don't mind, because I thought I had, well, I haven't changed my own report about the cruiser issue, but in the meanwhile, he sent me a text, and so I don't want to speak without having him involved here.
I have the information on that going back when we started this over a year ago, if you just want to know where the allocation of the funding came from.
No, thank you, Mike. We did track that down, and I do have an understanding of where the money is and what's been purchased and so forth. But last week, Jeff was going to forsake his capital request for 2 cruisers in fiscal '21.
Uh-huh.
Upon my representation that I would use the mitigation money to buy another SUV for this year, and they have one on order. So we would be getting back roughly half of the fiscal '20 allocation for capital as well as all of the '21. But now I think there might be a change of heart, so I don't want to speak to that. But thank you. Olga was able to track that down.
Yeah. And also, there is an incentive right now that has come out that if one were to order a car in a short duration of time, there is a $1,300 upside advantage right now based on because of the pandemic, I believe.
Great.
All right, Mary, if I may, the monies that were identified, which portion of that was identified from the feasibility study? I mean, I'm sorry, the casino mitigation money.
45,000.
For which vehicle?
Well, it was intended for that pickup truck that last week I said they had, and Mike corrected me that they never purchased it. And in fact, they never purchased it, but we couldn't find the 45,000. So Olga has now found where the 45,000 went. I don't know what line item or what account number it was in, but she located it and affirmed that the 45 is still intact and available.
Right, so we could potentially use that 45 to purchase the vehicle and not have it come out of our taxation.
Tom?
Yes, you could.
The whole 45 wouldn't be available because a portion of that, let's just say 50% of it is allocated toward the car that's supposed to be coming in possibly in 1 week. So the remainder of the mitigation would be a turn back.
Well, actually, Mike, there was 82,000 in capital.
I'm sorry, you're right, Mary. 80. It was 84. Yeah, 82 or 84,000. Half of that is going toward the car that's being coming in a week or so.
Correct.
So
So the other half would
We
be
got Jeff with
going
us now
back.
too.
right.
The other half of that would be going back if we then use the mitigation money to buy the second vehicle, which I think they need, and I think that's what Jeff will tell you.
Right. And that's
those
still
two
allowed.
vehicles- The two vehicles would disappear from capital this,
That's
for
correct.
21.
Right, but as I said, Jeff may want to tell you something different.
And here he is.
How are you, folks?
Hi.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Chief.
Jeff, I was about to tell the committee that we were going to reduce the fiscal 21 request for your two new cruisers and go forward with the plan that you and I discussed last week, namely that the one that's almost ready would be acquired in a week or so, and then use the mitigation money for a second vehicle, turning back roughly half of the capital expenditure allocation for fiscal 20. But in the meanwhile, I got your text. So
Yep.
I don't want to represent something that you have a different point of view about.
No, pretty accurate. Like I said to you before, you know, we understand, the police department understands the budget constraints that the town could be under moving forward, or are, however you want to look at it, and that we're willing to obviously help out where we can. And we talked about getting at least two vehicles probably sooner than later to help the crunch of the fleet. As I sent you this morning, there's the updated mileage to the vehicles that we currently have and the years that are involved. So you kind of get a picture of how they add up mileage wise, even though they seem like every year we're getting cruisers. You think that 1 year fix is good for 5 years or whatever. It's not the case. But yeah, so moving into the next year's budget with understanding that if we got 2 out of the 3 this year on the current fiscal year, that would put us in pretty good shape for short term. My only concerns would be later on, a year from this July going into the next fiscal year. We would back this time next year, we'd probably be in front of the board with at least 2, possibly 3 vehicles for the FY 22 budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then understanding that vehicles are not like going down to your car lot and just plucking them off the lot and get them in service the next day. It takes a good 4 months to probably get a vehicle from order into your line working condition. At least 4 months. Usually that's the
Yeah,
term.
well, I don't have a problem at all with what you're indicating. I'm sure you're accurate. I guess my concern, my own personal concern is that I'm just trying to deal with this week and next week, and what's going to happen in fiscal 22. I think may be still a very negative financial situation for most communities as a result of this. So I'm not unmindful of the concern about a year from now, but I think for planning purposes, I have to stay more in the present.
So two will get us up and get us, pretty safe moving forward. There is a little concern later on, talking actual dates after July 1st of next year. How quick we can get a vehicle that's allocated in our fleet. You're talking a year from this December if we were to get new monies next July. So I'm just a little concerned with that. But overall, I think if we try to move forward, we're willing to sacrifice up here. I know there's a lot on the board. I see a lot on the board here when I locked in as far as what everybody else is asking for. We're willing to do our part as long as everybody else is, and we'll try to manage what we got, and move forward. But they do get a lot of miles. They do get a lot of wear and tear. And that's all I'm asking. But right now, that's where we're at. Just you guys were talking about it. Let me just rephrase it. If I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But the $82,000 that was allocated, 1 vehicle is coming out of that, and the rest would be rolled back. If you see another vehicle in our immediate future out of this current fiscal year, it would be mitigation money, and that would probably chew up the 45 that was allocated for that. So you have a rollback of X amount of dollars, close to 40,000 out of the 82. It looks like.
Chief,
Agree with
one
that,
question,
Matt.
just so my notes are correct in case when I'm talking to budget finance or the entire council. The $84,000 that we're talking about, it was my understanding, wasn't that money allocated? Was it a line item for the greeter that never came about?
Yeah, so end of last year, what happened, I think, was when we started putting it on, Jim could probably weigh in a little bit, there was money put together for capital requests last year. And I think what happened was we had that money left over in our actual budget from the greeters. So instead of touching it out of capital improvements, so-called, they took it out of the actual budget and they just swapped out the allocation from greeter to cruisers.
That makes perfect sense because your email referenced greeter money and I'm sitting here scratching my head saying, what's he talking about?
Yeah, so they had budgeted
It was-
80,000 for that.
Yeah, okay.
No, 84, excuse me, 84.
It's fine. And at least I understand where the sourcing.
So
is
but
coming
they never,
from.
that's what I ended up determining, but I think that was the bottom line. It was never a capital planning allocation. Came out.
That's what confused me because last week when we were talking about this, I had an email from either you or Sarah that suggested that this cruiser was coming out of an operational budget and that I mean, some departments do pay for cruisers out of operations because you have to turn them over so frequently, but now it makes sense and thank you.
Right, so the greeter money that's there right now, the 84, let's just say 50% of that is paying for the car that should be coming in within possibly a week.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Chief,
I think we were allocated 82, even though there might have been 84. I don't know exactly what somewhere in the numbers. But yeah, and the sedan, a little bit of the money allocated was based on a SUV and a sedan for this current year. Because we couldn't meet that SUV deadline, sedan deadline, we end up having, if you want to move forward now, we have to order an SUV for timeliness. So our purpose is to get sedans. I know there was some discussion that, sedans are a way we're going, not necessarily, but right now we're under a crunch to get vehicles and we can't get the Ford doesn't make it anymore. You can't get a Ford sedan. The Chargers are not available till ordering in the fall, which means this time next year for delivery. So right now we can order an SUV, but it costs us an extra of $5,000 to $7,000.
Now, have you heard anything on this $1,300 knockoff of a Durangos?
Yeah, they lowered the price, $1,300. My understanding is they lowered it off the base price of the Durango's $1,300. Yep.
I just want to keep my notes up to date because I know, like I said, one of our other committees or the council will be asking. So I'm trying to bring all my notes up to date from last year, but thanks.
Right, that was just released to us, I think, in the last couple of weeks that they had, Sergeant Bruno's always in touch with the dealer to get these numbers tightened up, and they had mentioned that the last time he reached out about 2 weeks ago, if not less than that.
Did you get a delivery date on this car that we are talking about that's due in approximately a week?
I would say about a week, not a firm date. What happened was Global Marketing, which is a company that does outfitting for cruisers, they were doing our work out of the original dealer out near Boston.
Yeah.
They moved operations real quick to one of the local dealerships out here, but when COVID-19 came along, they shut that down and they shoved it up to New Hampshire now to do their outfitting. So it's taken a little longer leg to get around back to us, so that there's a time delay because it's being shipped up to New Hampshire, but we anticipate within 2 weeks.
Good.
Chief, if I can just indulge you with a little history and a story that I've heard, is that we had an unmarked or supervisor's car break down not too long ago.
Yep.
And my concern, and I hear what everyone's saying, is that you got one on order, it's coming in soon. You have, ideally, you'd like two, but one you can get away with.
Well, if you're asking me right now, we've got 5 in the pipeline between this current fiscal year and the upcoming fiscal year. We've had 5 cruiser requests. If the one we got on our order right now is replacing the supervisor car that will be moved off the front line. The other one that if we get the green light, will be a frontline marked unit that will be for the patrol staff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my part of my question is just history. Having been a member of Capital for 8-9 years and on the council for the last 2, the history has always been 2 cruisers per year to keep the fleet up to date, modern, and make sure that you have a reliable one. And my concern is, as you stated, if we put off purchasing what we need. We're putting it off just till the next year. And I've seen what happens when we've done that in the past. In the past, we've gone from 2 to 1, and then the town was on the hook for 3 the following year because of the maintenance issues and the amount of miles that were being put on the previous vehicles. So I don't want to see us get into that situation. So I think ideally it would be nice if again, to have 2 in addition to the one you have coming, but we can do with 1.
Well, so however you guys want to chop that up. The pickup truck was an issue for us to move forward with different directions of the department and help out the fire department as needed. It was a multi-use vehicle. If we sideline that, then we bring it down to 2 vehicles per year again. If the budget issue doesn't allow for that pickup, which we're using it now to utilize it for more of a direct purpose of the frontline cars, usually our goal is right, 2 and 2. I'm willing to help out the town and move forward. Not to say the need's not there, the need is still there, but understanding that if we come knocking on the door maybe this time next year or something like that, and we have to get another things in the next 8 months to 12 months don't work out cruiser-wise, that the town's willing to look at least ordering another cruiser, but we'd have a better handle on what that fleet looks like, the condition of it in 8 months. But there's a need there, but I'm just trying to work with you guys best we can. And
Okay.
I hope everybody else is too, understanding. These are frontline vehicles that are out there 24/7, and we'll try to make it work. But if we knock on your guys' door, just understand that we're in dire needs when we come knocking. But it could, again, play out to be 3 cars for July 1st of 2021 requisition capital planning request.
Okay, Chief, thank you.
Turnaround time the unfortunate thing is the turnaround time for these vehicles is just not like going down, getting next week and say, okay. So there is some kind of future planning involved when we do this. Where are we going to be with our fleet, mileage wise, in 4 months and stuff. So I'll leave it up to you guys how you want to dice it up, but the needs are there, but we're willing to work with you guys. But definitely, I wouldn't be asking for cruisers if the needs wasn't there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Thank you.
Add?
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, I hope that helps.
Thanks. All right. So we got that. So do we want to put that in a category, a capital group now, or do we want to modify that, or do we want to wait and see where we land? Yeah, I'll put this up for you.
I think from the discussions that we've had that there's actually 2 ratings. One would be to authorize 1 vehicle and then put the other in a possibly C category, which is necessary, but we'll see what the funding is.
That actually makes sense to me. Yeah, split them into 2 different individual requests.
Yes.
Is the rest of the committee comfortable with that?
I think I'm okay with that. It would allow us to rate one of them higher than the other, I suppose. So yes, I would be okay with that.
So we'll make 1 an A and 1 a C.
Yes, in my opinion.
One of them's definitely coming. So the one that we're talking about rating an A, that would be the second car that would be delivered by year end, correct?
No, I think we're in different years, Mike.
This would be a separate additional vehicle coming for fiscal year 22.
Okay.
That wasn't how I understood it.
No.
That's how I understood.
Either do I. So.
Yeah, I
This is what's
understand it.
happening. He's got 1 on order for fiscal 20 that's going to be arriving in a week or 2.
Correct.
Then we have 45,000 in mitigation money that's going to buy him a second vehicle right now before June 30th.
Correction. I think, let's committee this just because I want to make sure my notes are right. We have $84,000 from the greeter money. So if we take half of that money, let's say that's going to pay for the car that's coming in within a week. The remainder of that money would pay for the second car that's coming in, and we would probably be short about $5,000. So we would take $5,000 of the mitigation money, add it to that, and the turnback would be the remainder of the mitigation fees, which would probably be like $40,000 turnback from mitigation. Does that make sense?
Well, the numbers make sense, Mike, but I'm not sure that mitigation gets turned back. I think it's just, it's not an appropriation. It's in a separate,
Okay.
remember we had to move it, the council had to move it recently in the last 3 or 4 months because it was originally put in an account that was an inappropriate account for it. And the finance director came to the council and there was a motion to move it out of where it was into the general fund and then spend it. I think I should have had the minutes because I just had this conversation with Jeannie last week. In any case, your numbers are correct. Your math is right.
And don't get me wrong, anybody here too. I'm not challenging anything. I'm just trying to get my notes straight because it will come forward. But Mary, from a policy and procedure recommendation, I understand what you're saying. So even if we use the 84 for the 2 cars, or correction, even if we use the mitigation money, there's still going to be a turnback of approximately $40,000. And the
Right.
turnback would probably be coming from the line item from the greeter from the previous year versus
right.
taking it out of mitigation, correct?
Yes.
That way it would be done properly if that's what the,
Yeah.
how we want to do this, so.
And Mary, I do believe I misspoke in terms of the A category cruiser. That would be an FY21 current budgeting cycle. I don't know,
Yes.
the 22, I was kind of like way far off, but it would be one that we would include in this plan.
Yeah, and I agree with Jim. That was my point I was trying to make, in that let's not count the one that's coming. That's already a done deal. What I'm suggesting is we do one more at an A category and get that up and running and purchased as soon as possible. And then the second one, if we have the money, as a C.
So looking at the FY21 capital project, this is for that would start in July. We'll categorize 1 police cruiser as an A. So like we're agreeing that we definitely need at least 1. And then we'll have a second one for FY21 starting in July if we can find the funding for it.
That's my take on it.
Regardless of what's going on between mitigation money and turnbacks from previous capital purchases and that type of stuff. This is more just to keep this year clean. So hopefully we don't have to deal with it next year. Is there
That's how I understand it, Ryan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can deal with the funding source at a later date, but currently we know, regardless of where the funding comes from, that those are the ratings and the requirements.
You don't have to take 40 as a turnback for fiscal 20. You can order the third car now if you feel that you want to give it that sort of priority. He might still want 2 in fiscal 21 just as a normal operating thing, but we have $40,000 extra allocated in fiscal 20 for the police cruisers.
So you would just need the balance of that purchase, right, Mary?
Yes. We would take that out of mitigation and there's 82,000 that's not been spent. 1 cruiser's on the way. We could buy a second one now, although Jeff does say that the delivery schedule is a little bit problematic, but we could certainly order it now. And we wouldn't get 2 for 82,000. We might get 2 for 90,000, but we could take the extra money out of mitigation.
Okay.
And leave fiscal 21's issues until we get there.
Yeah, that makes sense, Mary. I would say sooner than later on the purchase.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that might make the chief happy.
would you like a vote of the committee on that, or
I would view it as a safety net because we could lose a car tomorrow. I mean, you
Yeah.
could lose an engine, anything could happen. So here's our safety net that's on the screen. But if we don't need it and we have a little bit of time to figure out that, we all know that there's a time lapse in ordering that third vehicle. At least it's there. And if we decide we don't need it, then there's a turn back.
So, Michael, are you then saying you agreed with Mary's idea to go ahead and try to buy it this year, and if you can't do it, then it's a turn back and we deal with it for next year? But I got the impression you do agree with trying to do it now as opposed to.
Well, I'd say it this way, if needed. And from what I'm hearing from the, not just the chief, but the sergeant that's been directed to that department, that these two vehicles work right now. And that's what they're asking for. And the plan was to turn back money. And I'm all about saving money if we can save money. But I felt that if you put it on the screen here, at least it's a safety net where, you know, if we were to lose a car through some unforeseen problems, such as losing an engine or an accident, anything can happen. But I don't want to buy 3 cars just for the sake of buying 3 cars.
So don't move forward with the current fiscal year purchase.
I feel like we're playing ping pong. You know,
Yeah, I'm trying to take the recommendation. I'm trying to take the recommendation. That's what I heard from the department head, that we're getting a car in a week and we want another one in you know, by the end of this year. I heard, you know, I didn't hear it was mandatory to bring another car right now.
Michael, what I heard was that, yeah, we can drop down to 1 car additional this FY21, but don't be surprised to see 3 cars on our request for 22. So I kind of took that as meaning, you know, he'd like to be able to get the cars that he was budgeted for. I mean, they were approved last year, so they were in the budget for them to be purchased. We obviously thought there was a need for it. I guess my only question is, could he physically actually buy a car between now and the end of the year, at least enough to encumber the funds? But
Well,
let me try to follow up with him offline. You know, there was some, they did want that second car this year, this fiscal year, and there was some delay. And I think it caused some discontent in the police department because they had the order was never placed. And then when it finally was discussed and vetted out, it was just never placed. And so they've kind of done without it because they've had to do without it because of some internal machinations over ordering it. And I think that Jeff is trying to be cooperative. I think he would want the vehicle, but I don't really disagree with you, Mike, either. I mean, the year now has come and gone.
Yeah.
Essentially, the fiscal year is just about over. So,
Well,
you know, it's.
First of all, I agree with you 100%, Mary, and what made the most sense on what I just heard here is revisit the situation with the department head so that we have a clear direction. We're a little bit, everybody heard maybe just the facts just being a little bit different. So I think that we should reach back out to the department head and clarify. And I'm all about buying 3 cars if the need is there. But I think it needs a little bit more work. And what I do understand, because I am involved in the purchase of cruisers, is that, first of all, they have to be available. Second of all, once you commit to it, you're looking at 4 to 5 months before you take delivery on it anyway, because it's not just buying it from a dealership. You heard the word global. It might have to go to New Hampshire, a satellite outfit. They've got to be outfitted, and there's time. It takes time to get this car online. So I'm all for Mary having another conversation with either the sergeant that's been assigned to the task and or the chief, and bring us back with a recommendation, and I'll be happy to go with that.
Sure. Okay, that's a good idea.
The turn back money, was that
Go ahead.
money or was it
Say that
operation?
again. Jim?
that wasn't me.
Oh, go ahead. Who asked the question about turn back?
That was
Brian
me.
did.
The turn back money, was did Jeff say that was left over from FY20 capital project?
Well, the funds that were on the table, and we can decide where they're coming from. We had $45,000 in mitigation money that was initially assigned to a pickup truck. We had $82,000 to $84,000, which was to be used for the labor to have a greeter at the window for dispatch. So those were your total funds. Right now, we basically have spent 2/3 of the total on one car that's coming in this week and another car that will be coming in before year end, which means if we don't buy a third car, there's approximately probably $38,000 to $40,000 that would be rolled back from whatever fund it would come from. And after speaking with Mary on it a little bit, it sounds like it would come out of the greeter fund, would be rolled back. So I hope that's.
I
yeah.
have to check with Olga as to where it is. It was the use of the phrase, the greeter money, as I said a few minutes ago, confused me because it made me think that these vehicles were somehow in the operational budget as opposed to the capital budget. So I think when people have been discussing it, they've been sort of using the terminology interchangeably. And I don't know whether it's in an operational account in dispatch or in the PD for a greeter, or if it ever got shifted over to capital. I believe it got shifted to capital, but I will verify that with Olga.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point, because if it got shifted to capital, then we don't really care when the fiscal year ends because it'll carry over to next year. Same with the mitigation money. You know, if it's operational, then it, you know, kind of gets turned back at the end of the year.
I'll get answers on that.
Yeah, I would say just one more reason to revisit this and come back with accurate information on where these funds lie, the mitigation money and the greeter money.
Yeah. All right, so we've looped around 2 hours here. Before we start dropping, do you guys want to move forward with school department categorization while it's fresh, or do you want to pick it up next week or later this week? I can do that too if that's what everybody's interested in.
I would just as soon value them now if everybody's got an extra 15 minutes or so.
Any objections to that?
No.
No.
Bruce, you're still with us, right?
Yep, mine are already graded.
Oh, all right.
All right, tell us, speak.
So,
Well, obviously, I have an invested interest in a lot of these projects, so it's I don't know. If you want to hear my thoughts, obviously, I think the Maple Shade Steam Pipe Phase 2 is an A.
why? Give us a
Oh, well, obviously, it's obviously the second phase of an important project at that facility. I don't know, obviously, what's going to happen this year. Like I said, I had to contact the Attorney General's office in order to move forward with the project because of my concerns, and luckily, we did get their permission to move forward. So, obviously, the project has merit. So that's my opinion.
And the accomplishment is a year away from what I understand, at a minimum.
Absolutely, yes.
And
We'd have to go through a whole nother heating season, yes, on top of it, before
and
this would.
other projects that are contingent upon this one,
Yes,
and the risk to not doing it would be pretty devastating to that school. Let's move the memorial again.
yep.
So does anyone have any objections to having the steam pipe replacement phase 2 for 449, 430 being an A? All right.
No.
Mountain View replaced trailer classrooms, $1.352 million.
My recommendation is a C. I can continue, obviously, it moving forward, continue to maintain it. I think, obviously, my opinion is much different than the school committee's opinion and Mr. Smith's opinion, just so to keep that in mind. But my opinion is, like I said, a C moving forward. We can do it, or I'm trying to get my grading sheet out for So, yeah, if funding exists, obviously, to do it.
I could live with a C. I had it as a D, but a C would be okay.
Okay.
All right, well, any objections to that being a C?
I would defer to DBW.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
The electrical switchgear replacement at the high school for 119,115. B?
My opinion there is a B.
I have a B as well.
I have a B as
Necessary,
well.
but could possibly wait, just like anything else in the school department. I think going through the list, I can continue to maintain everything is status quo. I'm just trying to give a little priority for each and every one of them.
No. And so any objections for high school electrical switchgear replacement being a B? All right. Meadowbrook parking lot redesign, $186,094. Bruce, what do you got?
I have that as a C. Obviously important, obviously safety issues and everything else, but it's not going anywhere. It's been like that for many, many years since they did all the additions, I believe, back in 2006, 2007. So
Yeah, and you guys added a big parking lot already.
exactly. So
I would go along with a C.
Yeah, I could live with a C.
All right.
Birchland Park carpet. That's been on our list for many years. I put that as a C. What could be a B? Yeah, it's you know what I mean. It's more cosmetic.
It's
Than
pretty
anything.
bad.
It is bad. It's I don't know. It's
What's
Bruce, the wrinkles that were referred to, is there any like repair jobs that can be done to at least flatten the wrinkles out so it's not it may be a cosmetic issue but not a safety issue?
right. Well, what has happened too? The carpet has stretched, and actually, the glue in certain areas has come unadhered, I guess, to the bottom of the carpet. Sometimes if you touch something like that, say a big giant seam in the middle of a carpet, and then you try to cut it, re-glue it, sometimes you just chase your tail down the road and may cause more problem. It's one of those things. I think the custodians, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, I don't spend a lot of time at Birchland or the schools that much anymore. But I think they've put down mats and things like that over the problematic areas already in order to obviously mitigate any safety issues.
I haven't been in. I know the computer lab was bad the last time I was there, and that was like 2 years ago.
Right.
Between the rippling and stuff. My question is, what's underneath that? Like, can we just rip the carpet out and then just polish and seal the concrete below there? Is that concrete?
Concrete. Yep, it's all concrete. But there's a significant cost to that. It's polishing and sealing concrete and sanding it. It's going to be a lot more than $43,000.
Yeah, so my question was, does the sort of low dollar value here
Yes.
increase the priority for us
I
in the
was
sense of thinking that, maybe we could knock that one off our list
Right.
by doing it?
Right.
And just, I mean, I know it's probably not the highest priority compared to steam pipe replacement, but
Right.
if we can do it and get it done and improve it and move on, maybe
Yeah.
it makes sense to rate it a little bit higher than.
Maybe a B. Put it on a B list.
Yep.
Or an A. Or I don't know what you guys feel.
Yeah,
B's
Bruce?
fine.
Yes.
Yeah, Bruce, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Again, my experiences having to do with this type of situation is once you take that carpet up, you don't know what you're going to find below it. And a lot of the adhesives that were used in the past were problematic.
Right.
And so my fear is we tear this up for $44,000 and we end up with mitigation issues that are far extensive and bigger problems.
Right. That's a good question, Tom, but and I'm just kind of playing the devil's advocate here, given the age of the facility and everything else, I'm making the assumption that'd be a quick and easy project, but you're right. I can't answer what's underneath that carpet. I'm assuming it's just concrete, and given the past issues, and I know you've known about this also, when they did the VCT tile down on the first floor, we had a lot of warranty issues because they put down the VCT down onto concrete that actually hasn't cured in its full capacity. So over I believe the first 5 years of that school being open, we had to actually do some warranty work on doing a bunch of the VCT tile downstairs over because of obviously the slab wasn't cured, the glue didn't stick, and so on and so forth. So I'm hoping that is kind of what has happened up in the library also, as far as the delamination of the carpet. And that's why it hasn't held up as much as it has done with other areas.
Is it possible
so
to
the answer
find
is we
out
don't
by
know.
doing a sample? Is there any area that could be cut and examined to see what's underneath it?
I mean, yeah, we can do that and take a look.
Underneath it, it would only take a razor knife and a small slit to look and see.
Yeah.
You know if there's concrete under it immediately.
Oh, right. Oh, no, I know there's definitely concrete underneath. It's just a matter of, like I said, the condition. So this is what typically happens when installing a floor. You rip up all the old material, take off the glue, everything else. Company comes in, does moisture readings based on the concrete and see what it needs. We did do a portion of the guidance counselor's office over there where we actually, like Tom said, we did rip it up and everything else, but we actually had to put down a sealer before we put down any glue in order to separate those surfaces. So,
Yeah, and that,
let me see if we can look into that, get a moisture meter on there, or get tomorrow carpet over there just to confirm. Cutting a hole in it, hey, it looks good, and obviously to see if there's not going to be any issues. To the best of their knowledge, obviously, we're not going to cut open a spot every 8 to 10 feet. So we'll check on that.
And I take it that when you say issues, the worry would be something like asbestos or something like that?
No asbestos, given the age of the school. It's just my main concern is obviously moisture. If the slab hasn't cured completely, adding an additional, obviously, layer of sealant in order to encapsulate that moisture below all the glue and everything else.
Be good to know anyway, right?
Yep.
I'd be okay with a B for now.
Okay.
B?
I'm not comfortable with a B. I'd go with a C until we know more information. I don't know where everybody else stands.
I think it's good with it because of the dollar amount. I think a B is pretty good. Then if it comes back and there's high moisture, then honestly, if there's high moisture, I think it'll have to be resubmitted because it's kind of changing the scope.
Right.
And again, following up on some of our conversation last week, I'm wondering if some of these contractors, particularly the local ones, might be inclined to reprice some of these estimates because they want to do the work.
Right.
So do we have to categorize? You want to leave it as a B, or do we have to categorize it right now until Bruce does his due diligence?
We'll leave it as a question mark.
Yeah.
We'll loop back
There
on.
you go.
Question mark is fine until we know more.
So up next, we have the track resurfacing, 129,983 with 28,000 coming from the rental account.
I would categorize that as a B, and just like I said, and my only reason being, if we don't get it done sooner than later, it's going to cost us twice as much. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Yeah, that's kind of scary what you were saying, where if it goes through, then it's 400,000 versus 29.
Just like anything else, if you don't maintain it, it's going to cost you twice as much as repair down the road.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Bruce, Gordon seemed to be under the impression that we had paid something extra when the track was built to extend the life a little further. You're sure that that's not the case?
I'm absolutely sure, yes.
And is the 129, is that already net of the 28, or would the town cost be 129 minus the 128, or basically 101?
It's, the town's portion is the 129. I had the same thing, and that's why I put not reflected, so.
Oh, okay, sorry, Brian, I didn't.
Yeah, Bruce, question?
Yes.
This has to do with just a general question regarding the current condition of the track.
Mhm.
Who's responsible for maintaining that track? Because it does have special requirements.
Yes, it's mainly when it comes down to maintenance of the track. It really isn't maintenance. It's actually just upkeep, putting on the walk-off mat. So when players enter the stadium, there's a path where they walk on, so they're not damaging the track with their cleats and things like that. Monitoring, making sure people are not bringing soft drinks, gum, all those things. All those things kind of fall under the school department. We go in, pick up trash, we groom the field and line the field, actually the artificial turf. But over the last year, Gordon has hired New England Turf to come in and do maintenance on the turf, just because we're not able to give that area the necessary maintenance it needs by a professional.
Okay, so the responsibility for the maintenance falls to the custodians of the school.
Yes, but the custodians don't leave the building, so it's mainly up to the coaches and athletic director at that facility to make sure those guidelines are followed.
Yeah, my concern is we spend the money to repair it, and then it goes back into disrepair because our practices aren't being followed.
Sure.
Well,
Understood.
is it in disrepair, or is this just a,
No,
Not-
we're almost there. We're almost there.
but is that due to, do you think due to negligence, or is that
No,
due to
well,
wear and tear?
It's actually wear and tear. It's a little bit of both. I do walk the track once in a while, at least like you said, after the spring, and the tennis courts to check how they're holding up. There is gum on the track. There is staining. There is wear marks from not putting down the correct mats. Like I said, it is time to do something. Like I said, it's at that point, the paint is fading out. So it's indicative of obviously this 6 to 8 year period for as far as.
Do you know, does anybody on the committee know if the track gets a lot of community use? I mean, do people use it as a place?
Yes.
Yep.
I've gone over to the track every day for the last month until it was closed.
Yeah.
And the negative side of it being closed is that all the seniors, people that were at the senior center and using that regularly, now had a safe place to walk and on a mat, which is much easier on your shins and ankles, whether you're walking or jogging. And because of other people coming in from other communities and starting to play football or other sports in the middle of the field and not maintaining social distancing, now the track is closed down to all the residents.
That doesn't seem right. I went myself a couple of weeks ago and the gate was all locked up. I was very disappointed not to be able to walk on the track.
It happened about a week ago. They closed it. I was there when they physically locked it up and chased a lot of seniors away. And I understand why, and I don't know, I wouldn't have an answer on how to control people staying off the middle of it. But for walking and maintaining social distancing, it was a big disservice to the community to take that away from the residents.
That would weigh into my evaluation. I mean, if it gets a lot of community use and it is a resource that people are desperately looking for, maybe we have to think differently about that.
That, and then
But
also entertain some sort of,
Bruce, to your
go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, but the conversation, I mean, because I've spent time at that track and quite a bit, I see exactly what Bruce is saying. And it could correlate to, well, when is the last time the track has been serviced? But what I see is worse than a little bit of wear and tear on the top surface from foot contact is delamination. And the delamination will occur on the side of the product that abuts up against the asphalt. And if we don't seal that and that track starts delaminating, you're going to spend 4 times the money to repair it. So I would maintain that. And Bruce, the question I have for you too, I just mentioned is, when was the last time we did any service on that track?
That's actually an original when it was installed. I want to say 2000, what's it, 12, 13 when the track was installed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure.
Might have been
No.
14.
Was it 14, Tom?
I believe so. It was one of our last town meetings.
Okay, so when you have a break between, I want to say, the track and the asphalt, and water accumulates in there, the water freezes, it expands, and that's what's going to cause the delamination of that track. And if we don't seal that up, it's only a matter of time, but before you'd be replacing the entire track.
Right, because I was actually, when I was getting all these prices for the repairs on the track, I bet Gale Associates, they're the engineering firm that we had on the project out there. And I actually wanted to put some caulking along the edge of the track in certain areas, given how it's pulling the actual asphalt up. It's actually, the latex is actually shrinking, and then it adheres to the asphalt. And it's actually, like I said, not picking the asphalt up, but delaminating, lifting it up. And like I said, my concern was obviously water getting in there over the winters and everything else, and obviously causing more extensive damage to the surface.
Just sitting here wondering, I don't know if it would fit, but I wonder if community preservation could fund that. Recreation is one of the
Right.
proper uses of those funds.
Right.
And, you know, in light of the open space considerations in the community, I mean, we don't have a lot. So maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking that this is climbing up my priority list.
Okay.
And especially if we could find alternate funding
It
for it.
just, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
The one thing I'm wondering is, you know, like kind of like what Bruce has alluded to and Mike's alluded to, is there could be some sort of policy or some sort of person, existing position made responsible for it to make sure that, you know, the walk-off mat is put on properly. You know, I mean, I work there. I've seen the thing blown up against the fence.
Yeah.
I've struggled with this since the completion of this project. I was constantly in contact with the school department after seeing all our hard work obviously out there, and like
Yeah.
just watching the kids, and like I said, without any kind of great supervision, it's been difficult.
Yeah, so it's about $130,000 every 6 years, so it's $22,000 for yearly investment.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think something has to be done where it gets taken care of.
Right. I know other communities actually lock it up, and I know it isn't something you want to hear, but by locking it up and making somebody responsible with a policy and procedures for the facility will obviously contribute to the life expectancy of the place too. So, but that's not our call, I guess you could say.
So I'll just throw this out there. It'd have to be an A or a B for me.
Yep, I agree. I put it down as a B, but
I'd say B.
B.
That's okay with me.
Read.
Would it be capital infrastructure maintenance and quality of life?
I would say so. I kind of failed on those in the last couple, huh?
Yeah. And to Ryan's note,
Yeah.
Mary, you're going to follow up on the CPC money?
Yeah, I'll do the research on that and see. I mean, they were anxious to spend money at Heritage Park, so I don't think that the municipal ownership is a bar to use of those funds. Let me
Good
see what I
thought.
can find out.
Good
Okay.
thought.
Thank you.
All right, Mountain View gym floor replacement.
I put that as a C. I don't think it's a big safety concern issue. We had a couple loose tiles that we fixed. It's showing its age. It's obviously original. It's got some worn tile. But I don't see safety concerns and or issues over there, except for obviously looks.
I would agree with a C, and we just found half the money to pay for the track if we go with a C or a D.
Yeah, C is okay.
All right, I'm comfortable with that.
Yep.
Maple Shade outside play area renovation.
D, based on my obviously comments with the steam pipes.
Yeah.
Bruce, I agree
Yeah.
with you on that. Until you do the steam pipes, we don't want to be chopping the outside of the building and
Nope.
ruining the area that you're renovating. So that would have to come after the fact.
Yeah.
Right, so that would be a D.
Maple Shade roof replacements, the flat sections.
Maple shade roof, even though it's got obviously some leaks, it's not, I don't think it's detrimental to the facility. I would put that as a D also, but that's my own.
Well, here I'm somewhat guided by the priority numbers too.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where
Yeah.
that's where I'm kind of at with the rest of the prioritization is D's for the rest of them, but we can go through those.
Great.
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the Maple Shade roof replacement, leave that as a D. And the office renovation, this one and the next one.
Yeah. And the skylights, I'm going to do what I can with the ones that are leaking this year as far as maintenance. So that's where I think the skylights too, we can put that as a D.
Yeah, I just was thinking it was a smaller dollar amount. I wasn't sure if it was repairable or maintainable for you guys for at least a year.
So Bruce, was this to do more than the normal number that you repair?
Yes, that's all. But like I said, we're constantly over there patching and repairing, so we'll just continue on. That's all. If you
So,
guys are in agreement.
Any objections to making the Skylight replacement a D?
No.
No,
Great.
And the high school furniture replacement, the art and cafeteria, 166,488.
I'll leave that up to you guys.
We made their priority, the last 4 Ds.
Yep.
And that's,
I mean, I feel for them, and particularly since a lot of these things, students or people can't really see, their infrastructure types of maintenance or improvements. But I think if we can get by another year I would be fine with the D for now. It's not that it wouldn't be nice to do.
Right.
Likewise.
right.
Is this a whole scale replacement of all furniture in the art room and the cafeteria? Because maybe we could stagger it. And I mean, I do agree that it's a D, but
I heard
Maybe-
conversations about it not matching because you're not going to be able to find the existing and you'd have 2 different kinds of furniture.
oh, God
I don't know if there's
forbid.
any relevance to that.
no problems.
All right. And I can update you on the library carpet replacement. I did reach out to the Friends of the Library, well, one of the library trustees who is going to rejoin the board. I don't have an answer yet. I don't think they have received the money from that bequest that I referenced last week, but they are in the process of setting up an investment account.
Okay.
And so I'm hopeful that they may favorably view that. I'm going to proceed.
Excellent.
Excellent. Real nice. All right. Any other changes, modifications we want to make to the school?
How about the last one? I think the only last one on the list is actually the feasibility study. And I believe the remaining ones under that based on the high school would be Ds, but the feasibility study, would that be an A?
So for this project, do we want to categorize it into our plan, or do we want to formulate a recommendation?
Well, there's nothing to stop us from doing both, right?
That's true. That's true. I guess one implies the other.
I suppose one could argue it's capital infrastructure maintenance and maybe even improved operation, but looking forward towards a new school. I don't know whether the feasibility study itself would
No,
actually.
this will determine that. This will determine if a phase renovation is warranted based on the outcome of the study and or a new building, I believe. So this is where this whole things.
So it would actually look at the alternative of renovating?
Right.
Yeah, that's my understanding, Jim, that they're going to be charged with both tasks.
All right, that would be a worthwhile.
And is the 1.26 reimbursable at 55%?
I
Gordon
believe,
indicated it was in stages, that if I understood him correctly today, I think he said that the town would have to approve the total sum, and then the work is done in phases and submitted for reimbursement at hopefully that 55% level, which may increase based on our, I think it has to do with the demographics in the school.
And the way I understood it, this has got to be an FY21 decision.
So that would leave the town's portion at 567.
Yeah, I think you got to leave it at 1,260,000 for the moment. I would put a note or something
Right.
that after reimbursements, because they're not promising anything, they expect the town to commit the 1,260,000.
Right.
And the
So
communication
potential
to
55.
the town would be that we expect to get money, and hopefully the net would be around 567. So in the olden days, when I was on the appropriations committee, an amount of this size would typically not be able to be absorbed in the operating budget, and usually we wouldn't have this amount sitting around to be able to use by taking it from free cash. So we often would come out and try to recommend an override vote so that it's not, you're able to add that tax revenue. I heard what Greg said, and I understand exactly what the MSBA is getting at, because, taking it to a town vote puts up a lot of question marks and the possibility of it not being voted, and voted positively, I guess. But I think we should at least discuss that, the way we go about that funding.
So Jim,
Agree with you, Jim.
recommendation is to recommend funding through a debt exclusion?
Well, either a debt exclusion or an override. Hopefully this is that was one other question. Is this study something that can be bonded? Is it considered to have a useful life? And how long would you be able to bond? I don't know what the specific criteria.
I did ask that question before this committee convened, and I was told that yes, it is a bondable expense.
Okay. Did they estimate what the useful life would be? How long you could bond it over?
No, it was really just a very superficial question as to whether it was doable.
So, I think it's almost, if you don't do it, if you don't say yes, then everything else stops. They drop out of the contention. Then they're back, instead of back at the back of the bus.
Mhm.
And so then you figure another 5 years and then 10 years to build the thing. You're going way back. I feel a little better knowing that this is a thing that would be studying the possibility of renovating the building as well as building a new one. I guess you would only ask if it was being renovated, are you trying to get to all the bells and whistles of a brand new building, or are you trying to get to a place where you have a safe and usable, facility? But, I would think that it would be of value to the town to try to do this. So the question would be how best to fund it and fit it into our tax rate and fit it into everything else, particularly in this fiscal year where we're projecting revenues to be lower than we've probably seen in years.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think you make some good points, Jim. The necessity for it is certainly there, and their twofold mission. I don't know in terms of an RFP for the successful bidder, I mean, we could probably specify exactly what we were looking for and different gradations of their feasibility study to kind of focus on whether there's an alternative to a brand new building and what that would cost, et cetera. But I don't know, I'm not on the town council, so I'll reserve my opinion about where it should go in terms of how it's funded. I am concerned about our free cash balance because it's not going to be significant in light of some of the revenue losses that we're sustaining in this, and I expect to continue in the fourth quarter of fiscal 20. We may need to dip into that free cash for operating expenses come July.
So do we want to forward a recommendation? Well, I guess we work for you, Mary, not the town council. So I guess we can give,
Yeah.
either give you a
I think
recommendation.
a recommendation, I don't have any problem rating it an A. I mean, I do believe that the project is extremely meritorious. I'm still a little unclear about the 1.2 million. I realize it's a best estimate from Bruce's perspective and the school superintendent.
So they're going to
Not that it matters, even if it was only $1 million, what difference would it make?
Right.
But, so I would rate it an A, and I think a recommendation to the council would be probably more appropriate than anything else at this point.
I have two concerns. With the rating of A, it would have to go along with two conditions. One is that we have a better estimate of what that's going to be, since this is just conjecture. They're guessing from past projects that this is 1.26. The second piece of that would be that it also includes the possibility of renovations to the facility, as opposed to just focusing in on building a new one.
Right. Well, I don't mean to disparage Bruce's or Gordon's efforts in arriving at that number. Please don't mistake my comments for that. It's just a big number. And if, but as I just said, even if it were $250,000 less, query whether we analyze it any differently. I think a feasibility study, even if the conclusion is that you can have a renovation versus a comprehensive overhaul.
This is what that's what the purpose of this to do is to identify to the town themselves, to obviously the town council and to the town manager. A phased renovation doesn't make sense. We're recommending a new building based on what you currently have. So this is kind of one of those processes the MSBA has put in place in order to, I think, to appease the residents and the management and the town representatives.
So Bruce, should I infer from that, you're not implying that this is kind of a directed conclusion study, are you?
No, not at all. I have my own opinions, James. But
I mean, if we're actually doing a real comparison and study that way, then I think it has a lot of value for the town overall.
Yep. And like you said,
if it's just to show why the building should be built and why the renovations aren't a practical thing, then that's kind of a different kind of
right. No, because obviously in the SOI, I obviously helped Gordon write for the past 7 years on changes of the facilities. Actually do just that, is actually evaluate the building and see if it makes sense to do a renovation based on today's learning, criteria, and or a new facility is warranted. Like you said, I'm of the mindset, my own personal opinion, the high school has great bones. You can't build a facility like that and especially the age of the facility, and you go in there and look, it looks like the day it was built. You don't have that with Birchland. That was built in 2000. Like you said, the building materials and everything are subpar compared to back in the late 60s on the way things were made. So like you said, that's my own personal opinion, but I'm sure the school department has others.
Thank you.
Bruce, do you know offhand if the MSBA has a pool of design engineers that
Yes.
they would choose from? And is there any flexibility on the town's part in the choice of that? Is that RFP, I guess I was under the impression it would be coming from the town of East Long Meadow.
Yeah, there's a certain criteria that have to be met, part of that RFP process, which the MSBA would be involved with in order to obviously get what they need on the recommendation from the MSBA moving forward. So there is a list of potential engineers and or architects that we would probably be choosing from, yes. That has worked with the MSBA, and that's me just speaking. I don't know definitely,
No, I
but
think I
any and
see-
all projects we do has to be on the MSBA contractor list for.
Right,
for
well, that
lack of
would
a
make
better term.
sense. And I
Yeah.
think Gordon and I had a conversation along those lines several months ago when this first came up, but okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Okay.
So,
I live with an A. If we could start with a B, but I think it's probably an A. We either have to figure out we're going to do it, or the whole plan starts changing and
Mhm.
falling apart. I think.
It's always been bad timing. Like I said, 7 years, me and Gordon have been trying to get this moving. And I told him last year was the year. And then of course, the year we do get it, we're where we are. That's crazy.
I'm good with an A as well. I'm just wondering if it's helpful, Mary, for this committee to recommend funding sources like an override or debt exclusion. I think that timing would still work if we look for like the November ballot vote, where we wouldn't have to do an additional election for it.
I know last year's capital planning committee and in days gone by, typically the capital plan would include recommendations for funding sources.
Yep.
And whether you're paying it out of free cash, whether you're paying out of taxation, whether you're going to bond it. So I think that's definitely within the scope, should be in the scope of our committee, because that's the biggest question mark with this one.
Yeah.
Be helpful to the council, I think, and certainly to me, to have the recommendations of this committee.
Okay, so we'll start with the group first. Are there any objections to making it an A? All right, we'll make it an A. Now, funding source. Thoughts on that? DPW?
Bond.
I think Jim had the list well defined.
Yeah, Tom knows it well too. You either bond it or you take it out of free cash. You try to wrap it into taxation. I don't think free cash and taxation are really going to work that way.
Options.
I would think if we were able to bond it and do a short-term borrowing, and the nice thing is that we don't have to wait to pay the whole $1,060,000 before we get money from the state. It sounded like we're going to kind of get that in dribs and drabs as we go along and pay for this. I think the more we know about how we get that paid in conjunction with how we have to pay would probably better inform our recommendation about sourcing it. But
Yeah,
it may be a matter of borrowing and then kind of keeping it short term and applying the states if that's how it comes in. And then when we're left, we do a long-term bond or something. I don't know.
Right. Based on the balance.
I don't know if, I suppose it's possible to fund some portion of it from free cash and bond less if that becomes a question. Frankly, I'm conflicted about the politics of it, small p. I think, I don't know. I don't live in East Long Meadow, but I just wonder if I were a resident, would I want a voice specifically on this issue?
Well, that speaks to like a vote, a town vote.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the
Yes,
next
that's
day.
my point. And I don't know. It's such a big project that I think in the interests of transparency, which we all talk a lot about, that it might be the better course. But as a practical matter, to get the school built and get the funding approved, it might be, it might not generate the result that interested parties are hoping for, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. I just think it's a very delicate subject in this climate that we're in, and it's a lot of money.
Valid points.
Yeah. I don't think there's any disagreement with this is a town issue. And if it were to go that far, because my understanding of what we're addressing today is just a feasibility study. So this has no bearing on whether or not the town approves building a new high school, which
Right.
we all know is going to be north of $100 million. So as long as it's not bearing on that, then we can look at this as a separate project to find out where the town stands with regards to renovating the current facility or moving towards a new one.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tom. Maybe you can chop it up and you know, learn the town's pleasure in pieces.
So you want to mark this for borrowing, funding it through borrowing? Bonding?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I was going towards the ballot vote, but Tom, your point swayed me to, you know, the community will have their voice, because obviously that's going to be a ballot vote for the actual building itself.
Right. I mean, we need to find out, and by doing the feasibility, what the options are and what it's going to cost.
Right.
Because, I mean, if we look at their list, there's $13 million worth of repairs and upgrades that are listed.
Yep.
And I don't want to go there until we know whether it's salvageable.
That's what the feasibility, I agree with all of you. That's what the feasibility study's about. You can't make an accurate decision on which direction to go without having the information.
Agreed. What would be helpful to know is, and I'm sure it must be just finding the right person to ask, what life or what term you could borrow over for something such as a feasibility study.
Yeah, because if you think about it,
Well, maybe that's something we can revisit at our next meeting. Maybe we can get some information on that. And also we can check the validity of the 1.260 and find out, does that number, is that stable, or is it going to move north or south? I'd like to have just a little bit more information, I think, so for our next capital.
I'll ask Dawn. I'm hopeful of meeting with my finance team either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I'll ask Dawn to reach out to the entity with whom we have placed prior bonds and some investment counsel and see if I can get an answer to your question, Jim.
Thank you.
all right, so I think we did some good work today. I don't know if anyone else has anything else they want to add for categories or changes or anything else you want to bring up. You know, we're coming up on 3 hours here, so.
Nice job, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good. I'm starving.
Beautiful.
A lot to absorb.
Right before we start to get hangry.
Cranky. I think the word is cranky.
Thank you
So
all
I'll
very
entertain
much.
a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any-
Aye.
Hi,
All right. Thanks,
See you later.
everyone.
Thank you. Take care,
thanks,
gentlemen.
thanks, everyone.
Good.